the second movie on what items to use when you're going looking for gold in the Adirondack Mountains is going to be the Falcon metal detector. And the second one is going to be White's GMT Master Gold, which Garrett's bottom out.
Gold. The Fisher Goldbug 2, I believe, operates at 71 megahertz, and the Gold Monster, I believe, at 45, and the GMT, I think, around 28 or 32 or something in there. But I'm pretty positive I'm right in the Monster and the Goldbug. So anyway, this is like light years ahead of the bug as far as how sensitive it is. Usability-wise is a different story, but sensitivity, it's way more sensitive. The gold bug will find incredibly small pieces of gold, what we call fly poop. So small you kind of have to squint to find them, smaller than what I'll show you today, or as small as what I'll show you today. But this thing, these little pieces here, I'll show you in a little bit. This thing can find little pieces that are half or a quarter of that size. These are just pieces I grabbed to demonstrate with. So megahertz is important. And when we really take a look at this machine, it's very, very simple. It basically, well, it does have has a headphone jack, and it has two adjustments, sensitivity and ground balance. Then the coil or the probe also has an adjustment on it right here, this copper ring. This can slide up and down. I'm not going to move it. I like it where it's at. And this will actually, you can pull this out and you can run it through a piece of PVC, or you can buy a handle from the manufacturer. I think the manufacturer sells them. But it's easy enough to attach to a piece of PVC and use it as a stand-up metal detector. And the reason why I'm saying stand-up metal detector is one of my best friends and hunting partners, Dennis, and I were using these a few years ago, picking up little pieces of gold in an area, looking for a pocket. We've been on our hands and knees or sitting down most of the day finding little bitty pieces. And at one point he looks at me and he's like, bro, I have to get up and use a stand-up metal detector. And I'm like, wow. That's so true. Stand-up metal detector, sit-down metal detector. That's awesome. So I consider this more hands and knees sit-down metal detector. You can use it standing up. But with a coil-sized probe, you're not going to cover a lot of ground with that. It's not going to happen. So anyway, you know, this is what it is. It's a great tool. I have a case for it too that you can actually belt mount. Here's my case. It's probably a little dirty. Probably need to clean that sucker out. But I've used this thing quite a bit. And let's talk about when to use it. When can you use this? What's the best way? Well, I'll let the manufacturer tell you that. But here's why we like to use it. When you are in a remote area and you want to determine if it's worth dry washing or hiking in a 151 or a 140, especially several miles in, there's a lot of ways to do that. You could use like a gold bug and you can detect little pieces and say, wow, this is really worth it. You can take samples, you know, you can blow cracks out. This I like because I can throw it in my backpack and I can carry it with me. And I can quickly get down and just run over cracks, and I can just tell how many little fine grains are in there. It's very, very easy to do, stuff the gold bug won't even find. So that's why, one of the reasons I like it. The other reason is chasing pocket gold. And this has helped my wife and I find a multi-ounce pocket of gold. There's a spot, and I'm not going to get into it, but we found some really good gold with our, you know, best friends and hunting partners, Laws and Dennis there. And, you know, we used a variety of machines between all of us. We found some really, really nice pieces. So these actually helped us, you know, figure out where to go to find a pocket. And these things will find such small pieces of gold. It's simply amazing. And we won't be too long in this video today. I'm going to use mine pretty soon. I've got an area I want to use this in. And so I changed the batteries up, but I'll give you a quick demo of it, and I'll probably adjust the light to do it. I'm in my wife's studio, art studio. She's an amazing artist, and I am going to try to not break her light, because if I do, I'll be in trouble. I'm going to move the light over here so you can watch the demonstration. I'll also show you, the manufacturer gives you a little piece of pyrite and a little piece of black sand. Is that what it is? Pyrite, gold, and black sand. They actually give you all three on this card so you can see what it sounds like, because it will discriminate against between all of them, against them, but between them. So I'm going to go ahead and move the light. We'll turn this thing on. We'll see how it works and the sounds it makes. Again, it's a really cool machine. My main uses for it: finding spots I surely want to hike a dry washer into a long way, or chasing pocket gold. So let's check out the demo. Get the light moved over here. There we go. And this is really easy to turn on. It's your typical VLF. You can see my switch is out of adjustment, but that's okay. So that's really all I'm doing, is I'm just simply adjusting the sensitivity. And the ground balance. When I have it where I want it, and it's kind of cold in here, so hopefully I can keep the cable out of the way. You can probably still hear the machine. Really not reacting to the pyrite. The black sand going away, it makes a noise. The gold going towards it. And it's not going to detect it from an incredible distance. As you can see, these are small pieces. Very, very small pieces. So I'm going to turn that off. Put my wife's light back here. Hopefully I don't break it. I'll be in big, big trouble. Now my wife's cool. I wouldn't be in that much trouble. I'd just buy her a new one. But I don't want to break anything of hers. I've actually broken a couple glasses that we had, and she had them before we got together, and there's really cool blue cobalt glasses. And I had to go on eBay and find them. I had to pay like $50 a piece for 2 glasses. I didn't have to. She was totally cool with the fact that I broke them. She's not a material person, but I felt bad. And these glasses probably cost $10 new, but I could, they were older. I had to pay $50 a glass just to make myself feel better. Kind of silly, but anyway, that's the Falcon. So again, while we have it out, we're changing the batteries today. I'm going to be using this very, very soon. It's a very unique metal detector. It's not something you're going to go out and cover a lot of ground with, but it has some really good uses. And again, my uses are for determining if I want to take a dry washer in for a lot of fine gold. Just one way.
Well, here's the owner's manual. It says nothing hunts like a falcon. What they mean is you go anywhere where there's a lot of rocks like this, and you put your falcon on it, and if it goes in and it rings out, it could be gold, silver, copper, or any other metal that there is. And it could be that. And if it comes back, black sand, hot rocks, and stuff like that, it's come back. When it comes back, if it don't make any noise and it looks like gold, it's fool's gold, pyrite. What I do, I get it all sensitive up and get it where I want it and test it. Every once in a while, I use the probe and test it and see if this little gold makes it ring. If it don't, I fix it so it does. And I go maybe a little while longer, 5 or 10 minutes. And I try it again. I just keep kind of in case it's all warmed up and getting too hot. So that's what they mean by nothing hunts like a falcon. I think it goes into a rock about 1.5 inches, Okay, and it's whatever those things, and it runs down about 1.5 inches how it goes in the rocks. But make sure you keep on testing it with your probe. Don't be lazy. Hit that subscribe button. God wasn't lazy when he made, after he made heaven and earth, he made the universe. And he made man so good that a chiropractor can work on his back and it will lower his blood pressure. And if you're one of these people that takes medicine and it lowers the immune system, you can tell that because the medicine people say that you take this medicine, you can get something bad. A chiropractor can work on that to get that fixed too.
Hi, I'm Steve Howard, White's Electronics, here to talk about White's GMT gold prospecting metal detector. It can be a little intimidating when you look at any new model. All the controls and all the buttons and switches can be a little bit intimidating. The GMT is very easy to use. The primary thing you deal with when prospecting is ground rejection, and that's fully automatic on the GMT in the fast tracking position. You just pump the loop a few times and it'll smooth out and balance. I'm ready to go. That's as fast as ground bounce is, and it'll track as I sweep along to the changing ground automatically in the fast tracking position. You also have the option of going manual, and if you flip it to manual, then you use your plus and minus buttons up here on the top to set your ground balance manually. Basically, you're just pumping it, finding your plus and minus until you get very little change in sound as you pump the surge coil up and down. At that point, you're ready to go. The reason a person might want to go manual is if particular hot rocks are giving them a hard time, you can manually set it to a particular type of mineral hot rock and then ignore that hot rock in that entire area. You also have grab. So if you're searching in manual and you decide, well, what did the automatic system decide the ground rejection should be, you just press the grab button. It'll update the ground balance to that setting that tracking has been tracking all along. You've got your on-off gain control, which is a sensitivity. Of course, you want to run that as high as you can, and the detector still behaves itself, which means you can identify a beep as being a target as opposed to just noise. So the gain, higher you go, the deeper you go, but it's going to get a little bit nervous and jumpy, and you're going to back it off until you get it to where it's smooth and stable, and you can identify real targets. The audio threshold you set so you just barely hear a sound, and everybody's hearing's a little different. You want to be able to hear just a tint of that sound. That gives you your ultimate sensitivity to small targets. You also have an SAT control on the GMT. What SAT does is it smooths out minor imperfections in the ground. So if your ground's a little bit bippity bonkety, you can speed up your SAT and it'll smooth that out. So you can so that you can identify what a real target beep is as opposed to just ground noise. The higher you go on the SAT, the smoother it runs, but the quicker you have to move the loop. And it can tune targets out if you linger the coil too long on top of the target. It'll eventually tune it out. So you don't want to use fast SAT unless you absolutely have to smooth out the ground. The other control is this switch over here. It's got the battery check, and then it has audio signal boost. If you think you're hearing a target really weak and small, you can go to audio boost, and it's going to significantly increase the sound on that small target. Sometimes when you start to sweep a target, a very small nugget, the ground tracking and the SAT can tune that out. But if you're holding the trigger, it disables the tracking temporarily, so it won't tune targets out if you linger over them quite a while. The other option is trigger forward. It's going to give you a grunt if the detector is certain that it's iron. Gives you a very distinctive grunt. It'll save you, having to dig around some of those big old rusty shovels and stuff like that. The display is telling you several things about the target. One of the biggest things is this probability of iron. If you're getting 100% probability of iron on your display, which is the bar all the way across, it's going to be iron, so you don't need to be digging that. The different graduations, 20% or 50% sure it's iron, it's going to vary from area to area, but it's quite reliable within that same area. So try it with a couple nails, try it with some iron, see where you're reading. Again, strong readings are iron, very little readings are not going to be iron. That's going to be a possible nugget for you. If you're in a dry riverbed, you can locate the black sand pretty easily with this follow the pay streak. You can search around, sweep around, and you're going to look for your highest numbers. It's going to be your black sand. If it numbers dropping quite a bit, you're getting into less black sand. So in a dry wash or something like that, you can find your black sand pockets for panning or dredging or sorting out even a little further. The GMT is so sensitive, it will pick up the minerals and the salts in your body. You see, I don't have any metal in my hand. It's picking up the salts in my body. So when I find a target and I'm trying to separate the dirt to find that little nugget, it's really handy to have a little plastic cup, either Tupperware. You can scoop it up, sweep it in front of there, and you're not going to get that salt and minerals that's in your...
Host of Gold Trails, and I'm here with my buddy Jeff Williams.
That'd be me.
Oh, hey, everybody knows that I love to track black sand, and I've been using machines to do that, and I've tried to teach folks how to do that, of using a metal detector and tracking black sand deposits and so on like that, to where I can come in with a recovery system of any sort, and I didn't even realize it, but one of the new features on the white GMT is actually a black sand tracking mode. Talk about that, Jeff.
Yeah, that's right. It's a new feature they came out with a couple years ago on these newer machines. And if you look at the top right-hand corner of the screen, it's going to say follow black sand, amount of mineralization. Now, this is a new feature that they just came out with. And the way that it works is, as you're walking over these old washes or royals, you're looking down at this number display. And as the number display increases, that means the mineralization is increasing, which means that there's probably a lot of black sand right below your feet. Now, the best thing to do in that scenario is to mark it off with a construction flag or something, and then what you do is you'll start to see a pattern forming in the wash. You go back later and dry wash it and get some of that flood gold, because the gold's going to be on the bottom of that black sand, just like in your gold pan. So this is a new feature that I really like. And matter of fact, Jimmy Sierra made a comment about it too. And he said he's not really sure about how it's going to come about, how people are going to use it, but I've used it myself, and the thing works fantastic. And all you have to do is watch that number display. It goes from 0 to 100. And when you hit 75, woo, there's a whole bunch of black sand right below your feet.
Jimmy said he didn't know how people were going to use it.
Yeah, if you watch some of his training videos on YouTube, he'll say, I'm not sure how a lot of people are going to use this, so we're waiting to see how that's going to evolve.
Yeah, and to me, because I track so much black sand and I follow these things, on the GMT, this is an outstanding feature that allows me, instead of having to make an incredible amount of adjustments to a machine for sensitivity and doing my gains, my sensitivity, and playing around with all of that, set the machine up. Now, when you're using this, are you setting this up in your normal gain?
Yeah.
So
everything can be set up normal. I usually put it in fast auto track.
Sure.
And my gains are normal according to mineralization, of course, because in your higher grounds, you're going to decrease on your gain. But yeah, everything is the same. You just have to look down here at the right-hand corner, and you'll see that bar graph shooting over there. And you'll have a bar graph, and you'll have a number. I always look at the number. I don't really focus too much on the graph.
Right.
So when I see that number jump up to about 75, 85, somewhere in that range, I know the mineralization is good. I'll mark it. And then I'll start going up the wash, and you can actually start to see this like pattern forming in the wash. And so you'll mark it and go back and dry wash it. Now it's not going to be nuggets and stuff. It'll be that flood gold, that really fine stuff.
Yeah, it's gold.
But gold is gold.
It's gold is gold.
I gotta have that gold.
So for tracking black sands, this is absolutely the very best feature that I've ever seen put on a detector. I mean, in the past we've had to do it just strictly by sound. We've had to overgain or oversensitize our machines. We're not really matching it to the ground. We're kicking up our machines to where it would almost maybe not even find gold, but we're tracking dirt. But man, what a great feature.
Yeah, it makes it so easy.
Yeah.
So I love these things. I tell you what, I always tell people, if you're new to metal detecting, get one of these things, because everything's already marked on you. All you have to do is pump it 2 times and you're ready to go. How easy is that?
All right, man. We got a big chunk of dirt down there we got to go detect. So,
and I got some Chinese tunnels down there too. So you know what I'm going to say. So come on, let's go.
Did you hear the difference? The broken tone and vibration versus the solid, the ferrous versus the non-ferrous. Finally, we have a pinpointer that can ID ferrous versus non-ferrous. It's a new Profine 35 by MindLab. Just got this in the mail today. Wanted to show you guys really quickly before I run out the door. Ferrous tone ID, 2 different responses help you identify ferrous junk from non-ferrous treasure. Has adjustable sensitivity. It's waterproof up to 10 feet, 3 meters. Tie-Viz, obviously, audio and vibration, holster and lanyard with a battery included, $129 USD. This is going to be hard to beat, you guys. I've been wanting a new pinpointer with this capability for a long time. I'm going to have to go out into the field and do a little bit more testing with this. I had a chance really quickly at Detectival to use it, and I was super impressed with it. It was kind of overshadowed by the Equinox at Detectival. But anyway, I just wanted to throw this out here really quickly for you guys to see this, and a more in-depth review will be on the way. See ya. What's up, guys? It's been a couple weeks now since I first got a hold of the Profine 35 pinpointer by MindLab, and I've had a couple weeks to test it out. I've got to say, I'm very, very impressed with its ability to discriminate between ferrous and non-ferrous targets. This comes in really handy, especially if you're in an iron-laden site and you're coin hunting, because how many times have you gotten inside of that hole and you start probing around and you pull out a nail, and then you stand back up and you get your machine out, and then you hit it and you hear a high tone in there still, so you get back down and you pull out another nail and then you stand back up, and this process goes on forever. This takes a lot of that up and down sequence out of the picture. So you can just stay down and listen for that non-ferrous target, pull your coin out, get up, rescan the hole, because that's what we do. It's good practice to do that, and move on. It saves you a lot of time. I'm especially digging that this is fully submersible. And I know a lot of people have talked about, its abilities for hunting in underwater situations and coin hunting, but no one has talked about its potential for prospecting yet. This is going to be an amazing tool for those people that like to do sniping and crevicing in rivers and things like that, where you go down and you stick this in some cracks in bedrock and you just listen for that non-ferrous tone. And this essentially becomes like the world's smallest metal detecting coil, and it gets you into a lot of places where gold likes to hang out, and no one has talked about that yet. So we're going to test it on some gold here today as well, so we can kind of get an idea about how sensitive this would be for gold prospecting applications. For that, we're going to use this as a measuring device. I want you guys to see how small this gold is that we're going to be testing. Can you even see that? I mean, that is teeny, teeny tiny. Look how small that is. I'm not proud of it. I'd like to find bigger gold. Who wouldn't? But, that's your bread and butter. Here's one. As you can see with the sub-gram gold nugget, you've got to be about a 1/4 inch or less away before the pinpointer will start detecting it. That's actually really good for how teeny tiny that little nugget is. On the big one, you got to get it about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch away before you start hearing the pinpointer hit on it. And just for kicks, throw in the silver quarter test there, and I would say the test that I found to be most interesting was how good this can ID iron within about an inch.
I invented this with the channel, okay? So when you agitate, that goes... Hi guys, it's Doc from DocDetecting.com. Most of you know me, at least I hope you would. You know that one of the things that I love to do since I went in business in 1992 is I love to invent stuff. And I don't just invent things for the fun of inventing it, although I think it's fun. I invent things that I think will help you as a prospector have more fun,
be able to be more efficient and to be more productive in terms of finding gold. I think most of you, or a lot of you, I think, because I've sold an enormous amount of these, are familiar with my gold spot scoop. Okay, the gold spot scoop worked on an easy principle, and the principle was that when you get a pile of dirt in there, when you're metal detecting, or if you're sniping and checking cracks to see if there's any pay dirt, you shake it back and forth, because if you notice, there's a channel right here, and that channel is made to channel that gold down. Because if you use a regular scoop and you're shaking back and forth, you don't know where in the bowl that nugget may end up, or those heavies, okay? It could end up on the side for all you know. And it could end up the side in the front. And when you start to dump the dirt out, it falls out, misses your hand, maybe bounces off your hand, whatever. So I invented this with the channel, okay? So when you agitate, that gold's gonna go one place. It's gonna go into the channel. And then when you start shaking it into your hand, those riffles are going to keep that gold nugget in the scoop, because that's the safest place for it, because that's where ultimately you're gonna find it. Sometimes you're gonna find it in your hand when you're using a regular scoop, but you're gonna have to push around and it may fall out of your hand. In the scoop, you've got high contrast, and so we get this in green or yellow. A lot of guys like yellow because they lose their green scoops. So green has always been a really, really popular color. However, blue is supposed to be the color that has the greatest contrast to gold, whether or not you believe that. So I looked at this and I said, how can we improve this? Because one of the things that I've noticed, being I started using a gold monster, is when you're using a detector that finds really, really, really dinky gold, man, sometimes it becomes a challenge to find that little speck of gold. So I came out with the next iteration. It's not on the market yet. This is prototypes that I got, but I'll tell you the prototypes are perfect. So there's no reason why we won't be going into production soon. And when we go into production, it'll probably take us 40 days or so to get them in. But my new thing is the second iteration of the gold spot, but we call this the gold pit. And I did some really neat features, I think, based on some of the things that you folks told me. One of the things is you always said, gee, I wish you had a flat surface on the side so you could scoop the dirt together better. Well, we did that. If you notice between these two scoops, can you see that this, you've got a flat side right here, flat side right here. So now you can scrape all that dirt together. And the second thing is we got the little gold pit. You see that little indentation in the very back? That will capture a little gold, but you, like anything else, you have to learn how to use this, because I won't fool you about this. There's a little finesse to using it to get the most out of it. But if you're out looking for cracks in bedrock and trying to clean those cracks out and sample it to see if there's any gold bearing, you know, nuggets in that dirt, or even little flakes, this is the ticket. If you're just going regular metal detecting and you're looking for nuggets, again, this is a ticket. If you're using a gold monster, you're not going to lose your small gold with this. But like I said, you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to go to school. So I'm going to hopefully take you to school. In this little pile of dirt here, okay, I've got a small nugget. Now, as I said, and I hope you can see this, I think what I'll do, I'll get the dirt in the scoop and then I'll rearrange the camera so you can see even closer. But what you're going to do is you're going to use that, as I said, you've got this scraping side now, this flat edge, where you can take and you can just get all of that dirt into a pile very easily. All right, then once you do that, of course, you're going to put your hand down there like you would normally do with a normal scoop, and you're going to scoop your dirt into it. Now, I've got this at an angle so you can see it. Well, that's a little hard to do. So anyway, but we'll get the dirt in there, and I'm going to set this right here, and I'm going to set it right here, and then I'm going to rearrange the camera so you can actually see the way to use this to recover your dirt. So I'll be back in a second. Okay guys, so I reoriented the camera and I moved the tub a little bit forward so you get a better view, because what you want to look at is a scoop. You don't want to look at my ugly face anyway. So anyway, with the gold pit, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to agitate it, because you want to get it down into this channel, this recessed channel. You want anything heavy to get down in there. Now, once you do that, you can start using this just like you would a normal scoop, whether it be the gold spot scoop or whether it be just a plain old green scoop, all right? But you want to agitate even these because you're trying to get that nugget down to the bottom, and you're trying to get it, you know, better with this kind of a scoop to try to get it to the back so it doesn't come out right away. All right, so you agitate it and you start your process of dumping some dirt in your hand. I like to, if I know it's a little gold, then I sure want to go slow. All right, so I want to not just dump it, I want to sort of agitate it into my hand. And once I do that, I take my hand, I run it over my metal detector to make sure the gold is not in my hand, right? Okay, so and then I agitate my scoop again, try to keep it in that channel. Again, I like the bumping. I like this bumping thing. It makes a lot of difference, okay? Again, you would check that with your hand. You wouldn't check it with a watch on though, because your watch will set the metal detector off, obviously. Sort of reminded me of the first time I ever went metal detecting, I was wearing boots that didn't have metal in them. I didn't know the difference. And I almost dug a trench because every time I waved my coil over the ground, it gave a target. Well, it gave a target because it was picking up the metal eyelets. So I learned that lesson real quick. And that's the other thing, you know, you want to do with this is get back. Don't have that dirt on the riffles when you start. Get it back behind the riffles and then start doing your bumping. Okay, and with little gold, like I said, with big gold, you'd have probably seen it by now. You'd have seen it in the riffles. It would have started coming to the surface. All right, with smaller gold, all right, we want to end up with a small amount of dirt that we can put back in here because that's where things really get specific about finding what your heavies are. Now, you see that there's a little laying around back in there anyway, but if you want to get it all in here, just tap it. Bring this back here, I'm sorry. Bring it back behind the riffles and tap it, and all that light stuff will come right out of the gold pit. Okay, see how that works? Okay, so now you've got all the stuff you're working with is right here. All right, so again, tapping. I don't know if you saw that. I already saw the little nugget pop out of there. But remember something. If it's a nugget out of the ground, you're not going to see it that well because nuggets out of the ground are covered in dirt and caliche and everything else, and they don't look like gold. And this little nugget I've got in here is a clean piece of gold. So anyway, what I like to do is once I get to a workable amount of dirt, then go ahead and put it back in the gold pit. All right, knock it back in the gold pit, and here's where the finesse comes in. And it's a little practice, but again, if you're looking for little gold, I'm going to tell you the amount of time that I spent looking for little gold that I keep losing in my hand, or it goes through right between my fingers. I've always said, please just give me a 1 gram nugget, okay? I can find that with no problems at all. It's those little subgrams. You know, you're looking for 1/10 of a gram or 2/10 of a gram. It's a nightmare. So anyway, once you get a workable amount of dirt, put it back in there, and the more angle you put on this, okay, like this, okay, the faster the material is going to come out. So you want to be careful how much of an angle you put. I want you to look at something here. You see the angle here, okay, at the front of the scoop versus the angle here. This is much steeper. That's so when you're knocking the dirt out of the front, heavy stuff is going to stay retained back in here much better, all right? So you want to control your angle at which you're bumping. Now remember, you're looking for a little piece of gold and you don't want to miss anything. So like I said, if I angled a lot of material is going to come out, okay? But if I angle it a little, okay, the material comes out much slower. All right? Now, something else that's sort of interesting about this gold pit is that when you get to this point, tap it. Tap it right there. Don't tap it so the material runs back into it. But tap it. That helps it settle out. Okay? And you just keep going and keep going and keep going and go slow. And watch your angle. Like I said, the more angle you've got, the faster that material is going to come out. And the nice thing about this, when the material comes out slow, you just sort of can examine it. And if you see a piece of material coming out very slow, well, stop. You know, if it's a little bitty thing that looks like this, okay, and it came out really slowly, well, you may want to pick that up and run it over your detector. It might be a piece of lead. It might be a piece of gold that's sort of, you know, got caliche on it and you can't see exactly what it is. Okay, so you're going to go slow. When you get to about that point, stick your thumb in there and hold that material, okay? Dump this in your hand, check it, okay? And then go back to this, make sure there's nothing in your hand, and you can start running, you can do it a little faster and get it out there where you can examine it a little more. And look what we got. You see that? That, I think, is pretty darn amazing. Now that's, you know, that's not 0.2 of a gram by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see that basically the way this works. And if you notice, there's a checkerboard pattern embossed right in front of the gold pit, okay? So it slows down any material coming out. But look at the stuff that it got rid of before it got rid of the gold, okay? So this helps you identify. And like I said, once again, if you get down there and you still can't visually identify.
I have to put in an advertisement now for the Adirondack Mountains. My name is Gareth Tooley. I'm the CEO of 22nd Century New Technologies Company, Incorporated. I got this name a long time ago because I looked at small, very small stocks. One of these stocks made scrubbers for CO2 scrubbers for electric coal burning smokestacks. These scrubbers took out CO2. This is what Biden is worried about. Everybody knows that they made fire extinguishers from CO2 because the CO2 would go down to the ground and stay there and smother the fires. And a long time ago, there was a guy that had tuberculosis. He went up to the Adirondack Mountains. In 3 weeks, he was cured. In that 3 weeks, when he went there, he thought he was going to die. So he made a tuberculosis hospital where they fixed tuberculosis. That's how clean the air is up in the Adirondack Mountains. And when it gets 20 to 30 degrees outside, the cold weather takes all this CO2 right down to the ground. Captain Joe says, when you look up the air and see the jets going by, and you see fumes behind it, that's just like your breath when you're outside cleaning your windshield wipers. So you can think of Al Gore when he's flying around in his jet. He's helping the planet because all that jet fumes, CO2, is going down to the ground and into the ocean. And he's saving the seaweeds to be regrown. So he's saving the planet.
Take your best, Mr. Chairman. Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What % of our atmosphere is CO2? Take your best guess. You don't have to be accurate. All down the line.
Repeat that question.
What % of our atmosphere is CO2, carbon dioxide? Wild guess, it's okay.
About 5%.
Right?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll go 7.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
Right? How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreher.
7.
7. Do you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5.7,
Price is right.
8. I'm gonna
Okay.
get the high end.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to I put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not a half of a percent. It's 0.04%. It's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2. If we get below 0.02, plant life starts dying off. So let me ask Mr. Boyd, what are a lot of your vehicles Tier 4 already, or the vehicles that you know about in the industry?
Yes.
All right, so that's the cleanest burning diesel equipment you can get, right?
Yes.
All right. How about Mr. Dreyer? What do you think?
Yes.
Okay. So why would anybody be anxious to go out and change out all those vehicles that you've been upgrading? In my home state of California, CARB has eliminated lots of equipment. Trucks, we're down at least 70,000 truckers, and all because they don't make a mandate for a 2011 a newer vehicle. And so it's going to be harder to get things from the ports, all this, all that. So,
Well, that's the end of part 2 movie. A short ad will show you fishers doing things that nobody saw before. And you will see that the fisher's nervous system is not like humans. Fisher Castle, 6 DVD, first part. If you come to the Adirondack Mountains and do what the old timers did out west, they just piled the stones and dirt when they dug a ditch up beside it and left it there. If you do that in the Adirondack Mountains, any residents of the Adirondack Mountains will report you to the DEC, because the DEC, or the state of New York, has a law that if you walk on a plant, you get punished for it. Because the old time loggers in the Adirondack Mountains, they cut logs miles and miles in all directions. And they had forest fires and everything like that, so they made a law that you can't even walk on a plant. But they let trappers make a dirt hole so they can catch predators in the Adirondack Mountains.